Thank you for listening to this Podcast One production, now available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, PodcastOne.com, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, that lovable fellow over there sitting at the Supernatural News Desk. Why, that's Tim Dennis. Hello, Tim.
Howdy.
Hey, listen, I have got some big news. I've posted a little bit about it the other day on the Facebook.
Okay.
And, you know, that interweb thing over on the social medias.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was just very excited. Something major has happened, kind of an expansion to my family. And here's the breakdown. People are going goofy.
Yeah.
With their speculations.
Oh, I've seen it.
You know, did you get Tim pregnant?
Yes, he did.
Yes, that's not it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tease him out one more day. This is to all the people that send me supernatural news stories, but there's more to the story, but I'll save that for another day. What do you think of that, Tim, huh?
I like it. Just draw this thing out as long as you can.
Yeah, well, just till tomorrow. That's all we're going to do.
All right, then.
Yeah.
Sure.
So just, you know, on the Sunday show, they'll be able to get the information. It's pretty exciting news, very cool news. And if you've been following me and my story throughout the years, I have a very much like a Mexican soap opera lifestyle, Tim. I don't know if you've ever picked up on that.
A telenovela, Dave. Yeah, I have.
Yes,
yeah.
A telenovela. It's every week it's changing. Mm-hmm. There's something wacky, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe I inherited the Love Boat. We don't know. You'll find out tomorrow. That's all I've got to say. I
do know there's a strange person in your house named Juan Pablo. I keep running into him, and I don't know what he's doing there, but he seems like a nice fella.
He's there to pick the coffee beans for me, Tim.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. His cousin Juan Valdez loaned them to me for a little bit.
Oh, well, that's nice.
And he's an amazing flautist.
Oh, you always need a good flautist in your home. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who doesn't? Yeah. Well, let's get started, Tim. Supernatural news. That's the name of the game. Parashare. We've got your stories. We want to share your stories. I've been told that we have some phone calls this week, Tim. Are you teasing me?
No, not at all. No.
Really? We have actual phone calls this week?
We do, yes. Yeah.
You mean people picked up their phone and dialed 651-300-4977. That was 651-300-4977. And they left stories for us to share with our audience this week?
They certainly did, yep.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we start off the show with one of those before we roll into news? What do you say?
Sounds good.
It's just that simple, folks. You want to be a part of the show? We want to hear your stories. The world is waiting for your brief flicker of fame. So call us, share your stories, just like this caller did.
Hey, Dave, Tim. This is Lee from Orlando, Florida. Hope this message finds you well. I am a new listener to the program. So very excited to see you guys on YouTube. Look forward to hearing more. But I thought I would call and just share with you a paranormal experience that I had. I've had all kinds of crazy things happen to me in my life, but this is one that I can't quite figure out what happened. So I'd be very curious to hear your take on it. At any rate, it was early 2000s. I had moved from Virginia to upstate New York. At the time, my mom was still living in Virginia. And while I was in upstate New York, I was living in a little trailer on top of a mountain. And I would have things happen at night where I would feel like someone was looking at me from outside the trailer and through darkened windows. And being in my, mid-20s, mid to late 20s. I was very kind of like, I would stare back at it and, be very kind of antagonistic towards whatever I thought was looking at me. But it would happen periodically, and it didn't really think an awful lot about it at the time. But then one night, I was fast asleep, and I woke up. I'm sure this is not going to be any surprise to you, but I woke up at a minute or two after 3 a.m. And at that time in my life, that was very unusual to wake up in the middle of the night like that. But I did. I woke right up, and I'm looking at the clock, and I hear my mom say, Lee. And that's exactly how she used to say it when I was a kid, to get me up in the morning to get ready for school. And so I remember thinking, what, Mom? Oh, she's in Virginia. That's not my mom. And about the moment that thought kind of crystallized in my mind, still staring at the clock, the only way I can think to describe it to you would be a tentacle, like an octopus's tentacle, wrapped around my waist and yanked me across the mattress. And when that happened, I just instinctually reached out. I grabbed the top corner of the mattress and I just pulled with every bit of adrenaline I had coursing through my body. And I felt the tentacle like slide down my legs over my ankles as I pulled myself out and rolled off onto the floor. Now, I know it wasn't sheets wrapped around me or anything, because I felt it actually wrap itself around me. So I'm scared. I jump up and sprinted down the hallway into the kitchen. And I was completely freaking out. And I knew for sure that I had not been dreaming, that I was wide awake. I knew for sure that the tentacle that I felt around my waist was not sheets, because I felt it slither around me. It wasn't like it was there already. I literally felt it go around me, and then as I pulled myself off of that, I felt it move down my leg. So as I'm staring back down the hallway, it is the blackest black that you've ever seen. And if anyone has seen what I'm talking about, they know exactly what I mean. It was pitcher than blacker than pitch. And I knew for damn sure I was not going back down that hallway. But in that moment, I was suddenly worried and concerned for my mom, because I'd heard her voice, and I thought, I don't know, for some reason, I thought she might be in trouble. So I remember an old wives' tale. I can't remember exactly what it is. Somebody out there probably knows it who's listening. It's something having to do with if you either wake up from a nightmare, or if you wake up in the middle of the night from a nightmare, or if you've had something happen to you bad in the middle of the night, you are to eat something before you tell anyone about it, so that A, it either doesn't come true, or B, it doesn't get worse, I guess. So that's for some reason what I had in my mind in this moment. So standing in the kitchen, I need to call my mom, but I don't want to tell her what happened yet because I need to eat something. So a little old lady down the street who was very nice had made me some homemade chocolate chip cookies. And guys, these were like a mound. They were not the flat, round Chips Ahoy. These were obviously homemade hunk of cookie. That's the only way I can think to describe it. So at any rate, I reached for the platter, grabbed the cookie, took one bite, and this is very important. Then I went to put the cookie back on the platter, and I had a very clear memory of releasing the cookie out over the platter as this kind of to discard it back to the platter. So I reached, grabbed the phone, called my mom. She's like, why the hell are you calling me in the middle of the night? I told her what was going on. And of course she was fine, but she said, do you have a mirror in that back bedroom? And I said, yeah. She goes, well, that's the problem. She goes, can you see your own reflection in the mirror as you are laying on the bed to sleep? I said, yeah. She goes, that's the problem. So safety tip for anybody out there, I have actually learned to never, ever have a mirror facing your bed where you can see it. And that's been true for me. That's been true for for friends of mine, for people that I've known, people that I've talked to about activity in their home. For some reason, if you have a mirror facing your bed, it seems to amplify whatever is happening, whether it acts as a portal, whether or not it's exponentially increasing whatever's happening with you psychically in the middle of the night. It just makes things worse. So at any rate, she said, you need to take the mirror down, place it face down somewhere, and then you won't have any more trouble. I said, okay. So, of course, I didn't go back down that hallway for the rest of the night. But sure enough, the next morning, I got up the courage to go down there, still felt uneasy, took the mirror down, laid it face down in the garage, never had another problem. Now, here's where it gets interesting. A couple weeks go by. My mom calls. Says, honey, I was up in your old bedroom. I haven't been up there since you moved. I just began to say, I found this chocolate chip cookie in the middle of the floor. And honey, it had a bite taken out of it. Now, keep in mind, I did not tell her that I had taken a bite of a chocolate chip cookie before calling her that night. She was completely befuddled as to why this was there. And I said, Mom, I took a bite out of a cookie before I called you the other night when all that was going on. And she said, no way. I said, yeah. She said, but because I know this is not a cookie I keep in the house, honey. This is not a store-bought cookie. This is a homemade cookie. I said, that's the kind that I ate. She goes, I'm going to mail it to you. She goes, I'm going to mail it to you, and I want you to compare it to the cookies that you have. And I did. I had some left over. So, sure enough, a couple days later, the cookies was up. And, boys, I want to tell you, it was from the same batch of cookies. It matched perfectly. And also, as I think back on it at that time and then, now, I don't know what happened to the cookie. On the night of, I remember releasing it over the platter. I don't remember it landing. I don't ever remember seeing it again until a cookie showed up in the mail. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are. If you think, I don't know, maybe I psychically opened a portal back home or what. I'd just be really curious to hear what you think. So thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
All right, cool. What a great way to start off this weekend show. Thank you very much for tuning in, spending a little time with us. It's that simple, folks. Give us a call, 651-300-4977. Share your paranormal stories with us. We will share them with the world. We're like the wholesaler of paranormal stories, Tim. Did you realize that?
I'm beginning to, more and more, yeah.
We get them at a reduced price. We put them out there for a much bigger, broader audience for an even less price. I don't know if that adage really worked out so well after all. But anyway, We're here. We're queer. Get used to it. Tim, where are we going in the world of supernatural news?
Well, Dave, as the Minnesota winter gets colder and colder and I dive deeper and deeper into my paranoia, I realize that you're feeling it. You're feeling it and feeling it more and more from a longer distance so that you can be further and further away when I finally do explode. Evidently, you have subconsciously dived into my mind and know that I have a second paranoia, and you've combined my first paranoia with my second paranoia this week and decided to lead off news with it.
Yes. But, I thought, read the story. I know it was going to feed into your paranoia. I knew it was going to terrify you that the dead and AI may be coming together. But I'd like your thought on this. I'd like your thoughts about this one. Putting away your peer and paranoia, Tim. Putting that away. I'd like to know what your real thoughts are on this, because this was a bit of a mind twisting story when I found it. Go ahead, let's share it with the audience, shall we?
Sure. Let's start off with this story here. A mother has been reunited with her deceased daughter using virtual reality. All right, I'm already freaked out. A South Korean TV show, which, by the way, is going to be the end of television civilization as we know it, South Korea. Just keep that in mind as I read this.
Okay.
I'll tell you that theory later after we're done with this story.
Okay.
South Korea TV show titled Meeting You used virtual reality to help a mother struggling with the tragic loss of her 7-year-old daughter, Jang Ji-sung's daughter, Nayo. Nayo. I think it's Nayo.
Yep. Just, you know what, Tim? They're not listening. So you just hit the names and say them any way you want, and
I will tell you why they are listening.
No, they're not. Just read it. Just power through it, buddy.
It's Nayo. Died in 2016 following a battle with a rare illness. Ji Sung has been struggling with her death, but was recently given a chance to see Nayo one more time. During a recent episode of the show, Ji Sung put on a virtual reality headset along with a pair of touch-sensitive gloves and was transported to a peaceful field where she met a lifelike computer recreation of Nayo inside the virtual world. Ji Sung was able to talk to her daughter and even feel her touch. Ji Sung was hesitant to touch the digital recreation of her daughter, but the child insisted that they hold hands. "Oh, my pretty, I have missed you," Ji Sung said through tears as she hugged the digital version of her daughter. At one point, Nayo picked a flower to give to her mother, telling her, "Mommy, you can see that I'm not hurting anymore, right?" Oh, that is creepy. I'm sorry, that's not comforting. That's creepy. Don't you think that's creepy?
Well, finish reading it, and then we'll discuss.
All right. The reunion came to an end when the daughter said that she was tired and told her mother goodbye before going to sleep in the field. Afterwards, Ji Sung wrote about the overwhelming experience on her blog. The quote was this. She said, 3 years later, I now think I should love her more than miss her and feel sick so that I can be confident when I meet her later, she wrote. This according to Metro UK. I hope many people will remember Nayo after watching the show. So there you go. That's the quote from her.
All right. So let your freak fly, or your fleet. Let me try that again, Tim. Let your freak flag fly, and let's hear all the downside of this, and then I'll give you a different perspective.
All right, let's just get it all out in one big soup here. My theory was confirmed about South Korea at the Oscars this past weekend. Okay. All right. So
this isn't where I expected this to go, but all right, I'm with you.
And here's the culmination point. I've been sitting back just calmly watching K-pop, watching Korean television, watching this K-drama fad wash over America, right? I'm thinking to myself, why are we being bombarded by Korean media, specifically South Korean media? And then I thought to myself, wait a minute. North Korea and South Korea got together about, what was it, 2 years ago now? And there was that little crossing of the DMZ, right? And I'm thinking maybe North and South Korea have an agreement to flood the West with South Korean media, right? And it just so happens that President Trump is getting cozy with North Korea. Maybe there's some sort of involvement where North Korea is trying to infiltrate the West with Korean media. Now, all of a sudden, you've got South Korea taking over the Oscars with their movies. Now, all of a sudden, you've got this virtual reality thing, and now we're seeing dead ghosts and loved ones through virtual reality. They're combining AI and now taking over our minds with AI, Dave. Come on.
Folks, I'm just as worried about Tim as you are. I expected a complete AI rant. Instead, he went Korean. I didn't see that coming.
I'm going a manipulation of South Korea through North Korea through communist means.
Right, but without them, we would not have Korean barbecue. And I love Korean barbecue, Tim. Don't
let your stomach talk to your mind, Dave.
Oh, it is. They're my heart, my stomach, and my mind are connected, Tim.
And all I'm saying, like I'm going to... No, wait, Dave, there's more. There's just a little bit more here.
Sure. All right.
North Korea is also controlled by China, who right now has what? A problem with the coronavirus, which was hatched out of a government facility. Booyah.
But isn't that a way to cull their own people to try to get the wide population down?
They only tested it on their own people.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'll let that one marinate with you for a second. Because the next war, my friend, will not be troop on troop. It'll be a civilian war, launched against a civilian populace.
My God, this show's gone dark on a Valentine's Day recording session. Tim's heart is obviously blackened and full of fear and paranoia, folks.
I'm saying, what's the easiest way to get to people? Their stomachs, their eyes, and their hearts. And how do you do that? Virtual reality, my friend. Getting to them through AI. Getting to them by making them see their deceased daughters.
Okay, well, there's that. Now let me share the enlightened side with you.
Sure.
For years, people that have been traumatized and lost limbs, they have found an interesting method to help with that. And it's a very basic, simple method of mirroring. So what they'll do is they'll, like, say you lost your arm from the elbow down. Mm-hmm. They'll have you put your arm on the table next to a mirror, and then they'll have you put your other arm on the table, and then they'll have you look towards the mirror and move your other arm, and it starts to create some kind of new synaptic connection. And they tell you to squeeze your hand, and you do that, and then you're able to start controlling. You're mentally teaching that you can kind of control that phantom limb again. And it's a pretty compelling way for people to start healing from traumatic experiences like the loss of a limb. Now, having lost my mom 3.5 years ago, I could tell you that I would give anything to have the opportunity to sit down in front of my mom and to hold her hand one more time and hear one more message from her. So to me, I think it's a healing modality. And I understand where you're going with what's going on. And, I mean, listen, if I wanted to buy into the conspiratorial angle, they are mucking with our brains and minds and our perceptions. And I'm not just saying this about Korea. It could be any organization that's built this. Are they somehow flashing subliminal messages to us to buy more Tang or Eggo waffles? I don't know. But what I will say is to get that opportunity again, even in a virtual world, to see somebody that you lost and you never got a chance to truly say goodbye to, I think is really a cathartic healing thing. And I think, obviously, like any kind of anything, it can be manipulated and people can become addicted to it and it could be unhealthy. Mm-hmm. But I think if it's done in the way like this is, I wanted to hold your hand one more time, Mommy. I just wanted to tell you I love you. Everything is fine. I think that cathartic break and release will help people. Now, we're going to open the forum to you, our lovely listeners. Email us. We'll mention this in next week's show. Dave@darknessradio.com. Dave@darknessradio.com. What do you think about virtual ghosts? Would you want to be able to sit down, strap on a pair of virtual reality goggles, and communicate with a loved one again? Even if you knew that it was an AI version of that loved one? I would. I just think it'd be fascinating, especially with the news that I just got, Tim. I would give anything to be able to pick up the phone and tell my mom. And I think that it's that cathartic way that if we could do that, it would help bridge that chasm in our hearts. And I just think I'd feel better about it all the way around. So that's my take on it. I could be wrong, but I just wanted you to see that's kind of the different perspective.
But you said something key there, and again, okay. I don't want to leave it on a negative note, but I'm just saying.
Too late.
You just said something key there, and that was I would do anything too. And knowing that technology can always be twisted, knowing that people would do anything to see their loved one last time.
Well, yeah, I understand. Like I said, there's ways that it could be manipulated and changed, especially if at the end you're like, oh, Mom, it was so great seeing you. I love you too. And remember, Allstate, when you need insurance, right? All of a sudden your mom goes into that commercial and,
Well, what was the Netflix series? Is it Black Mirror? Is that what it is? Or I'm trying to remember where they did the episode with the virtual reality but it had to do with the romantic. It was a romantic episode where the two friends start doing the virtual reality thing, but one friend ends up falling in love with the other, but the other's really not in love with them. It's more of a sexual tryst, and they realize that they can't continue doing this, and it essentially plays off of the abusing the technology aspect of virtual reality. And it's an interesting episode of the show, in that it shows how quickly you can abuse the technology, and rather than use it for what it was meant to be used for. It's an interesting psychological experiment in the abuse of technology, I guess.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. All right. Well, let's get, I didn't see it. Haven't seen it. I haven't watched Black Mirror. I got to be honest with you.
Oh, okay.
I've heard mixed reviews on it. And because my time is so scattered and there's so many things I definitely want to watch, I just don't have time to watch everything anymore.
I hear.
So that's my issue. All right. Where are we going next in the world of supernatural news? Look, I had you read it up front so that you could get it out of you, purge it, not sit on it knowing it's coming later. You get out the AI story.
Well, I maintained. I didn't go crazy nuts.
I know. Now email me, folks. So what do you think about that? Dave@darknessradio.com. Would you want to have that opportunity to say goodbye one more time? Or just maybe if this is even something you could download into your virtual goggles at home. Do you think it'd be helpful or hurtful in the long run? So answer that and tell me why. And we'll read some of those answers next week right here on the show. All right, our next supernatural news story, Tim.
A ghost has been seen in the window of an Edinburgh landmark.
Edinburgh.
Right. I'm still getting over this.
You just don't have the same.
Yeah, I'm still getting over this.
You're afraid you're going to hack up a lung, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm still getting over this flu thing. So I feel like if I really go for it, you're going to end up with half a lung all over my microphone here.
Ew.
Yeah, I know. Well, I tried not to get graphic with it, but I did. A ghost is seen in the window of an Edinburgh landmark and causes a stir on the internet. Management believes the ghost may be the wife of a late Edinburgh lord. Eyebrows have been raised at Lauriston Castle after a man shared a photo of a mysterious figure standing in one of the windows when the building was believed to be empty. Drew McAdam arrived at the 16th century attraction in Davidson's Mains on Saturday prior to a show he was hosting for Magic Fest. Ooh, Magic Fest sounds kind of fun. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's probably just David Copperfield, but it'd still be kind of fun.
And sad David Copperfield. I don't know if I told you I saw him a few years ago. It was not the show that you would have hoped to see.
Oh, no, really?
Well, some of the people, our fans would like it because there's some paranormal elements, including alien contact.
Yeah.
Little Angley does. But, you could tell he was going through the motions. He had like an untucked shirt and just didn't have that David David Copperfield panache that he once had. So anyway, go ahead.
While wandering the historical grounds, the magician took some photographs of the estate. It was not until later when Drew saw the images that he had taken enlarged on his computer that he noticed something in one of the photographs that did not add up. On bringing them up on my computer, I was going to edit them a bit, but noticed the strangest thing, a figure at one of the windows, who I swear was not there when I arrived, he said. I have not edited this photo in any way. It is exactly as it came on the camera, he added on a post on Facebook. The 64-year-old mentalist and mind reader shared a close-up of the photograph, which shows a figure standing in one of the windows dressed in period dress. Now, say what you want, but there is a figure at that window, and they are not wearing modern clothing. Well, at least they're wearing some clothing. That's all I got to say. Additionally, I had taken another couple of photos in quick succession, which you can see here, and the figure appears to have moved, he said. Drew from West Lothian insists that the photos were taken when the castle was bolted and shuttered with nobody inside shortly before the custodian arrived to open it. Speaking to the Evening News, he said, I put the photos up on the computer and thought, what the hell's that? To me, it doesn't look like a ghost. It looks like a real person. I know the house really well. Some people said it was a mannequin or something, but there's no mannequins in that place. It's a museum, he added. Margaret Finley, Learning and Programs Manager with Museums and Galleries Edinburgh, said, we are all extremely privileged to work in a venue like Lauriston Castle, a building rich in history spanning over 500 years. Of course, the building has stories to tell. The house has had various notable owners over the centuries, and some of these characters are quite colorful and even notorious. Pardon my creaky voice. Margaret said paranormal activity was not new at Lauriston. Our staff at Lauriston Castle have reported hearing footsteps when no one is present and the sound of silk skirts rustling. Sometimes a shadowy figure is reported disappearing through a wall. Visitors to the gardens have reported seeing a shadowy figure disappear. The ghost may be of Sophia, wife of Andrew, Lord Rutherford, who passed after writing her husband a letter to be delivered only after her death. Drew's original post has been shared almost 500 times, attracting a mix of responses, with many shocked by the images. That is really spooky. I will have nightmares now, one social user posted. Another said, a lot of reports of ghostly activity in Lauriston Castle over the years. It makes for interesting reading. Some, however, were more skeptical of Drew's sighting, stating, it's the clearest ghost picture I've ever seen, but perhaps it's a cardboard cutout to gauge interest? ? So there you go.
Cardboard cutout. I don't know that they do that. I mean, I've been there and been to Scotland to a lot of these attractions, and they don't really have cardboard cutouts that they stick in the window.
Yeah, I would think that would be the last.
This isn't like Home Alone.
Yeah, I don't think cardboard cutouts are the fashionable thing to put in windows in haunted castles.
Not at all. Hey, You know what, though? You know what is fashionable? Giving, opening your heart, and being kind. And my son, a Navy vet and Minneapolis firefighter, is doing the polar plunge for Special Olympics. What is that? Well, my son is going to put his life on the line, as if he hasn't already enough as a firefighter and a Navy vet. He is going to plunge into the icy depths of a Minnesota lake on February 29th. In order to help raise money and awareness for Special Olympics. And every dollar that he generates from this polar plunge goes to help the Olympians with training, their uniforms, and travel to and from Special Olympic events. This is a big deal in our family, and we have been helping for years. We had about 10,000 last year, 6,000 this year. My son is asking for a meager $3,000 this year. We're only at about $800 so far. How can you donate? Well, you can do it one of a couple ways. If you follow me on social media, I continue to post about it on my Facebook and my Twitter. You can also email me, dave@darknessradio.com. I'll send you a direct link to my son's fund, and just put in anything, $1. I mean, if every one of our listeners chipped in $1, Tim, we would have almost $12 for people. We would have a close to 100,000 people download this show every time it airs through our regular podcasting format. So $1 each would be massive. But if you have it in your heart to give $5, $10, $20, $100, whatever you've got, this money goes to an excellent cause and helps the Special Olympics. So please consider giving and helping us out with that. Again, you can check my social media for posts about it, or just email me, dave@darknessradio.com, and I'll send you that link. Where are we off to next, Tim?
Well, Dave, here in Minnesota, one of my favorite times of the year is fall, when the apples fall from the trees, and in Florida, where we're headed to, maybe, when oranges come off the trees. But a new thing is falling off the trees in Florida, and it's quite spectacular, actually. It's a new season to look forward to. It's when the frozen iguanas fall off the trees in Florida. It's really quite spectacular.
What?
The frozen iguana season, Dave.
What?
The frozen iguana season, Dave. It's when the frozen iguanas fall from the trees. It's really quite spectacular. Yeah.
This is a thing?
Yeah, well, sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It just happened, actually, in Boca Raton, Florida. You're walking along there in Boca, and here comes frozen iguana. Bam, right inside the head.
Oh, so let me guess. There's been a cold front. These are cold-blooded animals.
Yep.
Creatures, not animals, Dave. They're reptiles.
Yep.
What happens is they're clinging to branches. The cold air comes in. They essentially go into this hibernation factor and then fall from the trees.
Bam, right in the head. Yep.
Let me tell you, it's not a very nice feeling. It hurts quite a bit.
A little bit.
That's the Geico Gecko there, Tim. At least my interpretation of the Geico Gecko, which I would like to go on record saying sounds nothing like Rolf the dog. Thank you.
Well, a little. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. And a frozen gecko wouldn't hurt as much as a frozen iguana. I don't know if you know that or not. They're
That's true.
Quite a bit
Iguanas
weight-wise.
are quite.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to make them feel weight conscious, Tim. I didn't want to fat shame the iguanas.
Oh no, you're not fat shaming them. They're different sizes. I
know you are. That's fine.
It'd be like the difference between me and Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah. Well, that's not the only difference, Tim.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's got a bigger head than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's 6'9" or whatever. No, he's 7'3", and I'm 5'11". Just saying, they're different size heads.
It is definitely different. That's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Don't look up, Florida. Don't look up. You're going to get hit in the head by an iguana. The National Weather Service is warning citizens of South Florida to take cover as they forecast showers of frozen iguanas this next week.
Frozen iguanas.
Yeah, and unusually low temperatures in the 30s and 40s around the region. That'll happen, by the way. Apparently, iguanas are known to literally freeze in state as temperatures reach around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Keep that in mind as you're strolling around South Florida. When this happens, they're prone to slipping off tree branches where they often reside. Well, they should get them little tennis shoes then so they can hold on. Or little Crocs so they can just dig in. But don't be fooled by their seemingly lifeless green bodies, experts say. One fun facet of being cold-blooded, iguanas may become slow or completely immobilized in order to conserve energy during cold weather. Yet they return to life as temperatures rise again. Oh, well, they should call them something other than iguanas. They should call them like little green Jesuses.
That seems like a very long name for a reptile. And equating our Messiah with a reptile falling from a tree, Tim, I don't know if it's the same thing.
Well, I don't think Jesus could hold on either.
Please send all of your email to blasphemoustim@darknessradio.com.
Just saying. Mm-hmm. Iguanas, which are native primarily to Central and South America, are considered something of a pest in Florida. Well, that's not nice. They're an invasive species that damage foundations, seawalls, and sidewalks by burrowing beneath them and leaving lizard droppings around homes. That's just their way of saying hi, I'm sure. Some are taking this as an opportunity to suggest that this may be a good time to curb the population. Well, that's not nice either. For those who are constantly talking about the iguana overpopulation, this could be your chance, wrote one morbid Twitter user who's in his mom's basement waiting for them to fall. The Twitter account for the NWS, or National Weather Service of Maine, also warned locals who are used to faring average temperatures in the 20s and 30s during the winter to expect any lizard sickles, that's what they're calling them, in their area to remain that way until spring. There are no iguanas in New England, by the way. But when these cold-blooded creatures are in peril, some Floridians can't help their hearts warming. Last year, Palm Beach Post columnist Frank Serabino wrote of his notorious backyard iguana known for leaving Jimmy Dean sausage-sized mementos. That's in quotes.
Wasn't that a song? Backyard iguana. Pooping in my yard. Wasn't that a song by the Beatles at some point?
Yes, it was. Yeah. It was one of their more famous ones. He leaves Jimmy Dean sausage-sized mementos around his pool. Well, he's just...
We call those poopery, Tim. Poopery is what he's leaving.
Poopery. But when he found one turned belly up in the water, he got the pool skimmer and moved his whole body out of the water so he was flat on his back on the patio next to the pool, Dave. The old patio. That's so nice. I decided to give him a fighting chance, he wrote. Aw, see? There was a little calm in the waters between the two of them. They weren't adversaries anymore. They were friends when it came down to it, when there was little turmoil there. Weather watchers on social media are also sharing their own tales of falling lizards. Had this happen to me in Key West back in January of 2010. Iguana fell out of a tree and grazed my back on the way down. It scared the hell out of me, he said. Locals laughed, but also recused it, wrote one Florida traveler. One savvy animal enthusiast reminded those on Twitter that iguanas aren't the only cold-blooded animals known to do this. Guess who else goes into stasis, Dave? Alligators.
Alligators. They're going to be falling out of trees next, Tim?
Yep. No, wow. They stay frozen in the water with their snouts sticking out of the water like buoys.
Ooh,
yeah, they
really?
just kind of float there, yeah.
So if you go out there and take a couple puffs and blow into their nostril holes. You can get them weeded up.
Yes. How did you guess?
I just knew Florida people, Tim.
So just basically ask Snoop Dogg to tour Florida when it's freezing, and he and his crew can go out and get all the alligators high.
Na 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 na, getting all of the alligators high. Snoop Doggy Dog.
Yeah. So next time you see a petrified gator, you can either tiptoe across them like Shaggy and Scooby, or you can simply just blow weed smoke into their nose, and that's how that goes.
Yeah, get up real close to do that, though.
Yeah.
Don't do that, folks. That's a stupid idea. Don't ever do that.
No.
You don't want to get an alligator high. Then they just want to munchies, and just think about that. Just think about that.
Yeah, don't do that.
All right, where are we off to next, Tim?
Next, you want to think twice before you take action against an alien. It turns out you may be the one who's seeing things. A man stabs a woman on the subway claiming them to be aliens. Women, plural. He went after more than one. He went after two. Yeah. A man accused of stabbing two women on a subway station claimed that both the victims were aliens. Dave, sometimes they're just women. They're not aliens. Last Tuesday, 29-year-old John Lee Cowell testified in his trial saying that he killed Latifah Wilson and critically injured 18-year-old younger sister Nia Wilson on a train platform in the San Francisco Bay Area as he believed they were aliens responsible for his grandmother's kidnapping. Doesn't sound like he's all there. His testimony from the witness stand in Alameda County Court read, "I stabbed both of the females in the crew because I believed they would not give my grandmother back." This according to the San Francisco Chronicle. Cowell pleaded not guilty in the 2018 stabbing of the women and killing one of them by reason of insanity. He also claimed that he had a history of mental illness, and though he doesn't remember exactly, he was sure that he had heard a radio inside his head, and even at the time of the incident. Cowell rode on the same train with the sisters on July 22nd, 2018, before the fatal stabbings took place. In his testimony, he also added that the three sisters were pointing to the other passengers while staring at me, and he felt threatened by three black females. They were together, threatening to assault my grandmother. Furthermore, the 25-minute-long train surveillance footage doesn't hint at any sort of interaction between Cowell and the three sisters. Cowell is now being charged with one count of attempted murder and another for murder, while prosecutors and the police believe that the knife attack was unprovoked. The victim's family and friends believe that the attack was motivated because of her race. Their claim was based on the fact that Cowell had testified about being punched in the face by a black female on a bus about a week prior to the incident on the train. Police also stated that just before the attack, Cowell wore a hood over his head and put on sunglasses in order to avoid getting arrested. Allegedly, he had also gotten rid of his clothing and backpack in the station's parking lot. He was arrested a day later at BART's Pleasant Hill station.
Yikes.
Yeah.
This is why I don't go out into the open, Tim.
I don't blame you.
This is why I'm becoming more and more of a recluse.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I'm going to be all Howard Hughes, long nails and eating berry cherry ice cream in my room alone. That's what my future holds, buddy.
Just be careful with the long nails, when it comes time to do maintenance. It
right.
Hurts. Yeah.
All right. Where are we off to next, sir?
Next, we go to Suffolk, where a man says, "I share my home with a ghost." He's also an actor and writer, by the way. Would you flee into the night, never to return if a ghost pulled off your bed covers? Not John West, according to this article. When you get the chance to visit a haunted house, you don't turn it down, do you? How haunted? Well, John West says he was in bed when someone or something once whipped the duvet right off his slumbering body. It wasn't the only time this alleged...
Yikes.
Yeah. It wasn't the only time this alleged Victorian ghost, identified, he says, by a couple of mediums, made her presence felt. It's a her, by the way. More recently, film director Jason Figgis kipped down on the living room floor. John says the ghost lifted the corner of his house guest duvet in the middle of the night and tugged Jason's foot. Was John terrified when he was a subject of paranormal meddling? "I did say out loud, 'I know I've got to share this place with you, but don't ever do that again.' And it's never actually happened since," he says. It's not so bad now, but when I first moved in, you heard knocks and bangs. I heard a woman sigh. I do think that after a while they get used to you and not a lot happens. Jason was new to here, so she probably wondered. John says those mediums also noted the presence of a ghostly child, a little girl in Victorian and Edwardian clothing. I live on my own, and people say, how can you? It doesn't bother me. I can sit down and watch ghost films at night with the light off. We're in his sitting room above a high street hairdressing salon. Parts of the flat date from the 17th century. It says, just us, or has the duvet-snatching visitor joined us? I think this is from the reporter's point of view. It says, I don't feel anything around at the moment. She's obviously happy, is what John went on to say. John recently brought out a new book, Britain's Haunted Heritage. It includes chapters on places such as the Tower of London and incidents like the hairy hands of Dartmoor. There's also a goodly amount of local intrigue, from the Red Barn murder of Maria Martin at Polstead and events at Borley Rectory, once said to be the most haunted house in England, to the alleged paranormal history of Langenhoe Church near Colchester. The author's interest in matters ghostly began in the 1970s and was down to his mom. She had many paperbacks about ghosts. I was fascinated by the covers with pictures of ghostly women and castles and giant spiders, says John. Since then, he's read much and visited numerous places said to be haunted. He writes for magazine Psychic News. I've never actually been or seen a ghost in front of me, he said, but I've had odd experiences. When he lived in Lincolnshire, he heard a dog running up the stairs and into the room. It actually followed me down here when I lived in Wickham Market. Later, it suddenly stopped. He also tells of a time slip experience when looking around a ruined priory. The modern sounds began to phase out, and it was as if the building was becoming whole again. I actually got a bit scared, he went on to say. Then the modern sounds came back. It's not just his pursuit of the paranormal that has made the past few years interesting for John, who lives about 5 miles from the coast in East Suffolk. He's added to his CV a list of film work as an extra, including a couple of episodes of Detectorists in 2017. They were filmed...
Not familiar, yeah.
Yeah, they were filmed, I think that's a show overseas. They were filmed near the Ransoms Europark Industrial Estate in Ipswich. John played a foreman on a building site where a historic mosaic is uncovered. We had to do endless takes of me coming out of this office and speaking to someone, then walking behind him. I even had a line, "Get your hat back on," and most of it was cut. In May of 2018, he was in scenes for the comedy film Yesterday. The screenplay was by Richard Curtis, and the director was Danny Boyle. None of his scenes, including one with star Lily James in a Halesworth cafe that called for many takes, made the final cut. Actually, part of him did, and the DVD is an extra. He said the back of my head made it. The following July, John had work in the comedy drama film The Personal History of David Copperfield and the Netflix royal series The Crown. But it basically goes on to talk about different experiences he had and different haunted houses that he had been in as well. He talks about different things as well. But there you go.
The different things
there's
as well.
just different haunted houses here that he talks about, but mainly he was just going on to talk about his home with the ghost.
Very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. All right. Well, let's see. You know what I'd like to do before we go any further, Tim, is I'd like to hear another call from our listeners.
Sure.
If you don't mind. I mean, I know you don't love them as much as I love them, Tim.
Oh, that's not true.
I love them a lot. So this is what I do every week, Tim, is I put out our phone number, 651-300-4977. That's 651-300-4977. And I just ask, hey, listener, give us a call. Share your story. You'll be featured on one of our upcoming episodes, and tell them what they win, Tim.
A brand new car?
No, we don't send anything out, but you get our adoration and love.
Well, yeah.
So, give us a call, just like this caller did.
Hi, Dave and Tim. This is Amanda from New Mexico. I'm calling to let you know my Queen Mary story. I made it to the Queen Mary last year, and it was really nice. It was abandoned pretty much. The weather was bad. We had thunderstorm warnings, and we were crazy enough to get on the boat. So we were the only group touring when we got there. There was 13 of us in our party. Lucky number. Anyways, we were going through the engine room, and my sister was taking a video of our walkthrough. We didn't have a tour guide or anything, but she had blue orbs in the view of the camera several times. I saw the recording, and sure enough, you can see these blue little lights flutter across her lens a few times. And we went to the overlook of the engine room. There's a little room where you can see all of the engine room. It was a glass pane. And I took a picture, and in one of the pictures you see a guy kind of like halfway hidden behind one of the engine implements. You can clearly see a head, a shoulder, all the way down to the legs, and it's real creepy. And then we got separated in the engine room. I was in a group with me, my son, nephew, and my daughter, and we made it to the escalators first, and we were waiting there. I said, okay, let's go take a picture. And when I took the picture, there's a little girl in the corner off to the side, away from the escalator. And what else? Oh, the girl giggling. We heard a girl giggling when we were walking to the escalator through that kind of like a narrow hall. But we're still in the engine room. It's a narrow hall. We headed towards the escalator, and we heard a little girl laughing, and my daughter asked me, who's that little girl? And I thought, I didn't see her, but my daughter did. And that's about it. That is my Queen Mary story. I wish I could make it spookier, but just a rundown. Thank you. Bye.
So give us a call. Tell us your story. Stay tuned. We've got more news from around the world when we return to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio.
Hey guys, it's Timmy here from Beyond the Darkness. I'll tell you something. Working out is hard. I'm not telling you something you don't already know. It's always been hard. Even when it's easy, it's still pretty hard. And Bombas socks, well, they can't change that either. You thought I was going to tell you it can, but it can't. But Bombas socks can make it more comfortable. So if your resolution is to get fit this year, start by getting socks that can keep up every step of the way. Let me tell you why I love Bombas socks. First of all, Bombas socks are comfortable. Oh, are they comfortable? They're like little clouds around your feet. And they help keep your feet cool when it's getting hot, especially when you are working out. And I know what you're thinking. I don't think Tim works out. Well, I'll tell you something. I'm still doing my DDPY, my DDP yoga, and I do sweat. That's right, folks. I do get a little bit sweaty when I'm doing my DDPY, and I'm trying to get my back and my neck in shape so I can get up and around and walking. And if you saw me on the Chris Jericho cruise, you saw me up and around and walking for the first time in a long, long time. And I was walking around in my Bombas socks, and they kept my feet nice and cool because it was warm there on the cruise. And you know what? Now that it's frigid here in Minnesota, they're keeping my feet warm, which I love that as well. They adjust to any temperature, and they keep my feet nice and comfy. With the construction that Bombas socks has, I'm getting rid of my diabetic socks. With the arch support system that Bombas has, it's helping out with my foot, with my arches, with the toe, with the heel, everything. The construction in Bombas is keeping my diabetic feet looking perfect. In fact, when I go to the doctor, he keeps asking me, what am I doing to keep my feet looking so good? And I tell him, hey, doc, Bombas. And he agrees. So I'm replacing all my diabetic socks with Bombas socks. Now, you do a lot of different things to stay active. So Bombas makes a lot of different performance socks designed for everything from running to hiking to cycling and more. Whether you're very into sports or planning on getting very into sports, Bombas can help with performance socks and styles made specially for basketball, tennis, running, golf, and more. They're made with a lightweight poly cotton blend, which means no matter how hard you're working, your feet are going to stay cool, dry, and comfortable, never sweaty. Bombas socks provide support in places that you didn't even know you needed, like your arches. Each sock is built with a special arch support system that's supportive, but not too tight. Like a nice hug, but around your foot. A foot hug. Constantly pausing your treadmill to adjust twisted, bunched up socks is enough to make anybody get ready to quit when it comes to exercise. And that's why Bombas are designed with left-right contouring and a Y-stitched heel so that they stay perfectly in place while you're on that treadmill. If you ever notice that annoying toe seam that most socks have, well, that little ridge that sits on the top, Bombas got rid of it. It's gone. Donezo. You don't have anything to do with it anymore. It's just smooth sailing all the way across the top of your foot. And did you know also that socks are the number one most requested item in homeless shelters? And this is the number one reason that I love Bombas socks. Bombas socks were created to change that. For every pair that you buy, Bombas socks donates a pair to someone in need. And that's what we love about Bombas here on Beyond the Darkness. We love the fact that Bombas gives back to the community from which you buy these socks. If you're in San Francisco and you buy a pair of Bombas socks, they donate back to that community. If you're in the Midwest, you buy from the Midwest, they donate back to that community. Bombas is giving back to homeless shelters, and they're giving back those socks to those homeless shelters, the number one most requested item. And we love Bombas for that. So right now, go to bombas.com/darkness and get 20% off your first purchase. That's our gift to you today. That's BOM as in Mary, BAS.com/darkness for 20% off. Enjoy the comfort and the feel of Bombas, whether you're working out, whether you've got a lot of walking to do, and just be nice to your feet. Go to bombas.com today/darkness. Bombas.com/darkness to get 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/darkness for 20% off. Bombas.com/darkness. Do you experience stress or have anxiety or even like me have chronic pain or have trouble sleeping at least once a week? Well, you're not alone. Many of us do. Personally, I've got chronic pain and I don't sleep very well. As a matter of fact, I've got a real bad chronic pain. I've documented it personally here on the show many, many times. I've got 13 herniated discs going all the way from my C2 in my neck all the way down to my L5-S1 in my lower back. 13. Count them. 13 herniated discs. I don't sleep very well. As a matter of fact, I'm lucky if I get 4 to 6 hours of sleep a night, of continuous sleep. So I need help. I need help with pain management, and I just need help with sleep. Both of those issues are huge for me. So I'm searching for anything that's going to help me. So I discovered Feels. What is Feels? Well, Feels is premium CBD delivered directly to your doorstep. What does Feels do? Feels naturally helps you reduce stress, anxiety, pain, and sleeplessness. I'll tell you how Feels helped me, and it's helped immensely. Feels has taken that chronic pain, that constant irritating, that banging, that grinding, it just grinds you to a halt, that chronic pain, and it eases it almost immediately. Feels also helps that irritation, that there's only one way to describe chronic pain, and it's that lack of mobility. Not only do you have inflammation and what feels like stiffness, it takes that stiffness away, and it also takes that pain away. It's a combination of factors that Feels helps with. It also, like I said, reduces anxiety. There's anxiety that comes with chronic pain. There's an anxiousness to it. It's a tightness that comes with chronic pain, and that eases that tightness that comes with it. It's very easy to take, folks. It comes with a dropper that's real easy to take, and Feels makes it real easy with the instructions that come with it. It tells you exactly how much you need to take in order to help with that chronic pain. You just place a few drops of Feels under your tongue, and you feel the difference within minutes. And I tell you, once you start to feel that pain wash away. Once you start to feel that anxiety wash away, it's such a relief. And I tell you, I myself, the first time I took feels, I couldn't believe it. I started to feel that pain start to wash away. And it's weird. The first time you feel that pain start to go away, you're so used to living in pain that I told somebody once, you know what? I'll know I'm dead. I know it's kind of morbid. I'll know I'm dead the time I don't feel pain when I move or when I step or when I go to get up or even when I'm breathing and I don't feel my joints hurt. And I went and I used Feels, and I was moving around and I wasn't hurting. And I thought, am I still alive? It was kind of weird, but it was great. It felt great to be able to take that dropper of Feels and put it under my tongue and just start to feel after a few minutes that subsiding of that pain and just start to feel human again. The great thing about Feels is there's real human support there if you're new to CBD. And if you are new to CBD, Feels offers a free CBD hotline and text message support to help guide your personal experience. You can start to feel better naturally. Feels works naturally to help you feel better. There's no high, no hangover, or addiction with any of Feels. It's all natural. With your membership, you join the Feels community to get Feels delivered directly to your door every month. You'll save money on every order, and you can pause or cancel at any time. That's what's great about Feels, is you can put it down or pick it back up whenever you want. Feels has me feeling my best every day, and it can help you too. Become a member today by going to feels.com/darkness, and you'll get 50% off your first order with free shipping. I encourage you to do it today, especially if you're in chronic pain like I am, or you've got anxiety or stress, even if you've got sleeplessness, if it has to do with chronic pain, or even if it has to do with stress. Go ahead and try it right now. Go to feels.com/darkness and get 50% off your first order with free shipping. Try it right now, and I'll tell you, you'll start to see right away, within minutes, that pain, that stress, that anxiety, that sleeplessness start to wash away. Go right now to feels.com/darkness, and you'll get 50% off your first order with free shipping. That's F as in Frank, EALS as in Sam.com/darkness to become a member and get 50% off right now. Once again, that's feels.com/darkness.
Welcome back to the show. This is Darkness Radio. I'm Dave. That's Tim. All right. It's time for a little bit more supernatural news. We've got some more Parashare stories. Tim, where are we going next in the world of supernatural news?
To the land of sports, Dave, to San Antonio.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you like them apples?
I'm listening.
We're going to the NBA, to the San Antonio Spurs, where Rudy Gay shares an encounter with the paranormal. If you believe in ghosts and things that go bump in the night, then San Antonio Spurs' Rudy Gay has a story for you. During an interview with Inside Hook, Gay told a spooky story about his time in an Oklahoma City hotel during his rookie season. He was staying at the Skirvin Hilton, Oklahoma City. Not familiar, never been to Oklahoma. When he had his otherworldly encounter. Turn on the lights before you read Gay's story, it says here. So I've done so. Although I never read in the dark, Dave. Just saying. It's bad for the eyes. No, you shouldn't,
because it's bad for your eyes. Yeah, very bad. Very bad.
Rudy Gay goes on to say, I have a story from my rookie year. You're not going to believe it, but I'm telling you it's the truth. I heard it was haunted, but I was in my room and I went to sleep the night before a game with my clothes on just in case I had to get the hell out of there real quick. I woke up and there was a room service tray sitting in front of my bed. I promise you, I did not order room service. I ran out. Luckily, it was right before the game, so I just got my stuff and sat at the bar until it was time to go. Nothing else happened, he says. The only thing worse that can happen is a ghost sitting on my bed. Hopefully Gay has the Ghostbusters on speed dial or some other ghost guys that we know in case there is a next time.
Crazy.
Yeah. A
lot of these sports
trailer.
figures have to deal with the paranormal at hotels.
Although, if you think about it, maybe there was a full meal there for him under the tray, and it was just a helpful ghost saying, "Hey, Rudy, you really should have a full meal before you head out."
Maybe, though, he would lift it up and there would be like a severed head screaming, or maybe even Slimer pops out, Tim.
Now,
I don't know if you've seen enough movies, but that's usually what occurs.
Now who's being negative?
That's not being negative. I mean, that'd be cool. If I could lift up a tray and the screaming head is there, my field of the paranormal would burst into a whole new thing. That's all I'm telling you.
Well, yeah, I guess. Just saying that maybe it was just a delicious, healthy meal that he needed before the game. Just saying.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. You know what else sounds good, Tim? When we get phone calls from our listeners. I love it. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that to you, but I love when people pick up the phone and give us a call and they share their paranormal stories with us.
New perspective from you, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Never heard this from you. Yeah.
Well, it's true. It's true. But I also, Tim, I like when people email me.
Really?
I do. Like Michelle. She says, in 1988, I was 14 and living in Seattle. My then 7-year-old sister and I were home alone. And as any good, responsible older sister who was babysitting would do, we pulled out the Ouija board for us to use. Sitting in my upstairs bedroom, our communications were at first rather typical, with slow hellos and attempts at introductions. But suddenly, the board began to move with great determination and began to say, "Window." Window was repeated over and over, and the planchette would point to my bedroom window. Curious, I looked out the window to see a man who had entered into our backyard, stripped naked, and was attempting to pry open our sliding glass door. The door looked across our living room to our front door, so I knew it would be difficult to escape safely and undetected. Several knives lay on the ground next to him as he continued to attempt to get our door open. Carefully, I was able to get out of the house with my sister and run to a neighbor's house, undetected by the man, where we called 911, and he was arrested. We were told he had recently been released from a mental health facility and had stopped taking his medication. Had the board not said anything, we never would have known he was there. I still remember if I ever say goodbye to the board, but I do know I said thank you. Michelle. Huh? Pretty cool. She can't remember if she said goodbye, but she remembers she thanked the board. There's a positive Ouija story, Tim. How often do we get a good old-fashioned positive Ouija story?
Almost never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good one. Well played. Thank you very much for sharing that. All right, Tim, what's our next supernatural news story?
We go to Hollyweird Dave, where we talk about the Kardashians. This story,
and what's our next story, Tim?
Oh, no, come on, Dave. We can talk
all right,
about
go
that.
ahead.
There are still some Kardashian fans out there. They do pretty well on the old E! channel. You know?
Yeah, okay.
Unthinkable. Kim Kardashian states that in her family there are paranormal situations and explains why. I know, Dave, there's a punchline here. You can go ahead and take the easy shot. Go ahead.
Nope, I'm just going to leave things alone. Besides, if you saw her video, you already know who took an easy shot. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, Ray J joke. The famous celebrity reveals a hidden side that causes great curiosity. The Kardashian family is characterized by its eccentrics and ostentatious lifestyle that always gives something to talk about. Kim, of course, does not escape it, being the most media figure of all, the famous Californian businesswoman. In addition to standing out for her unquestionable physical beauty, also has an overwhelming personality that manages to steal all the attention of the press and her followers. But a hidden side of Kim has been revealed recently after knowing that the billionaire believes in superstitions and has also confessed to having a personal experience that has astonished public opinion. Seems to skip ahead here. It says she seems to believe, they left out an S here, Dave. Either that or she's undergone surgery. She seems to believe that her son Psalm is the reincarnation of her father, Robert Kardashian, a renowned American lawyer who died in 2003 because of esophageal cancer. It turns out that Kanye West's wife has confessed to E! Entertainment Television that once a person in the spiritual field would have predicted that this would happen. In our program, we showed that we were in Bali and a blind medium, approached me and told me that I was going to have another child and that it would be my reincarnated father, said the Kardashian with deep conviction. In addition to this episode, another very curious situation arises in a baby shower in which an unknown woman assures Kim's little son's nanny that the baby was a member of her reincarnated family. There you go.
That's interesting. And she's basing that all on what?
She based it first on the words of a blind medium who approached her and told her that she's going to have another child and it would be her reincarnated father. And then secondly, an unknown woman at a baby shower that assured her that her little son's assured her little son's nanny that the baby would be a member of her reincarnated family.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Robert Kardashian coming back to get some of his money. Maybe
there you go.
Put these girls back on the path to righteousness. Probably not. All right. Where are we off to next, sir?
Talking about a new Travel Channel series investigating paranormal activity, Dave. We go to Saginaw County, Michigan.
Really? Yeah. Do tell.
There's a new Travel Channel series highlighting unexplained or paranormal experiences around the United States. The show is called Haunting in the Heartland with Steve Shippey, and it premieres at 10 p.m. on February 21st.
No kidding. You know what just so happens to be happening tomorrow on the show, Tim?
What's that, Dave?
We're going to be investigating a Haunting in the Heartland with Steve Shippey of the new TV show, which will begin premiering on Travel Channel on February 21st. He's our guest tomorrow on the program.
Really?
How cool is that?
That is very cool.
We deliver all the best guests and some really weird ones. But we do it right here on Darkness Radio. Please continue.
During the series, Shippey visits towns traumatized by fear of the unknown. He uses personal experiences from his childhood in a creepy house on the corner to connect with families seeking help. Growing up in a haunted house in a small Midwestern town, it says here the writer of the article understands the isolation of the experience, and it was only when others in town started to have similar experiences. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's a quote from Shippey. He says, I understand the isolation of the experience, and it was only when others in town started to have similar experiences that I realized I wasn't alone, said Shippey. The first season features 6 one-hour episodes. Shippey uses eyewitness accounts, archival information in his own toolkit to investigate the town's ghostly past until he can develop a plausible resolution. Shippey goes on to say, like my documentaries, working on this show is truly my life's work. These small towns have a bigger story to tell, and in order to find the resolution these families need now, we need to piece together their past. He will document an alleged evil spirit holding the small town of Merrill hostage since the 1800s in the first episode. The Saginaw County town along M46 has about 765 residents. Shippey will investigate an increase in hauntings during the summer of 1974, which prompted investigations by police, firefighters, and even the FBI. The paranormal activity may have included a spontaneous fire that burned down a family's farmhouse. The alleged evil spirit at work in Merrill may be connected to another haunting. Shippey gets help from a clairvoyant during the episode to ward off the spirit. During the first season, Shippey also visits Malvern, Iowa, Atchison, Kansas, Hebron, Kentucky, Holly Springs, Mississippi, and Greenville, Tennessee.
And tomorrow he visits us here on the Darkness on the Edge of Town Steve Shippey will be our special guest tomorrow. We'll talk about his past in the paranormal, some of the chilling encounters he's had, some of the work he's done in the field, and what we can expect from the new series Haunting in the Heartland, which begins on February 21st on the Travel Channel. So make sure you tune in tomorrow for more of the best in paranormal talk radio. Let's take a call, Tim, shall we?
Sure.
Hi, Dave and Tim. My name's Vera, and I'm calling from a small town in southern Colorado. I want to thank you for making me laugh, making me smile, and bringing some really interesting stories to light. I've been listening to the show since I've heard Dave on Coast to Coast, and that was several years ago, and I've enjoyed listening to you ever since. Have one story in particular. I have many stories. But one story in particular takes a little bit of time, so if you have to cut me off, feel free to do so, patch the story together, whatever you need to do. I met a friend in junior high school, probably in 1966, 1967. Went to junior high school. Her name was Luann. We lived out in the county, so out in farmland, so the easiest way to access one another was to ride our bicycles back and forth. She lived across one side of the Highway 50. I lived on the opposite side, Highway 50. So we rode our bikes. Luann was pretty poor, her and her family. They had come in from New Mexico, settled in Pueblo, Colorado. We weren't rich by any means, but we had a little bit more money. My dad was off in Vietnam, back and forth doing the Okinawa cleanup and working there. He was in Korea as well, but was working for the cleanup. But nonetheless, we didn't have a whole lot of money, but as girls do, we shared clothes. She was always at my house and picking out outfits, and I'd go to her house, and she didn't have much to share of any type of clothes. One day I was laying on her couch, and I told her, certainly you have something new that I can try, and I can mix and match to wear. And she said, no, I don't have anything. Well, she had an armoire that she would never open up, and it was kind of dusty. And so I proceeded to open it as she begged me not to open up the armoire. It was just a standalone stand-up closet. Well, of course, I opened it up, regardless, not listening to her, and inside was something that had not been dusted for a long time, and it was a vestibule from a priest, and there was a crucifix and some candles that had burned down and nothing dusted. And so I lay on her bed, and as I looked around on her bed, she had several mirrors, and with the mirrors, everything kind of reflected off what was inside that closet. So I asked her, what was that all about? And she was pretty scared and wanted to close it up and kept telling me, why did I open that? I should listen to her. And I said, because I thought you had clothes hidden in there, something you didn't want to share with me. So she told me, she said, this is a secret. Of course, it's a secret as long as you don't tell anyone. And of course, she shouldn't have told me, but she did. And she said that they left New Mexico because when she was younger, she had an exorcist. She said that she was possessed by the devil, and I asked her what did that mean. She said she couldn't remember a thing. And I said, well, absolutely nothing. And she said, no, I don't remember anything. It's just what my mom and dad told me. So nonetheless, after I opened up the armoire, and she had said that she had this experience where she was possessed by the devil, and people prayed over her, and she had no account of what had happened. She had no recollection of anything that transpired. She said, don't tell anyone. So I get on my bike, and we lived probably about 2 miles away from each other across the highway. So I rode my bike home and sat down, and I was with my mom, and I looked at her, and of course, talking to my mom, and I miss my mom, love her so. And I said, if I tell you something, can you keep a secret? And of course, my mom sits real serious, and she said, you can tell me anything. And I told her exactly what I had seen in Luann's house and what she had told me. So my mom, being my mom, she just grabbed her cigarette, grabbed the bar stool and the phone in the kitchen, because that's where you kept your phones then in the early 60s or mid 60s, and proceeded to call Luann's mother. And I told my mom, I said, this was a secret. And she said, well, no. She goes, I need to find out about this. And so she called Luann's mother and asked her and told her what I had seen and what Luann had said. And I could just hear my mom, and I can just envision her right now sitting on that bar stool, smoking her cigarette, drinking her coffee, saying, oh my goodness, well, Lord be with you. And that was just as nice as she could be, and say, well, she's a lovely little girl, and thank God that you were blessed with all your friends and family, and hung up and looked at me and said, you're never hanging around with Luann again for the rest of your life. Well, that didn't happen. Luann and I kept sneaking around, would see each other. And as time went on, we became closer friends. And then we had, hindsight's 20/20. And you think about all these things that happened. And at the time, I never put anything together. And so I'll just briefly give you an account of some of the things that happened when we were in high school. And we kind of weren't real close friends in high school, but we did socialize with one another. I know that her father was extremely strict, beyond strict. I think he was just protecting her, but in his efforts to protect her, he was just so overbearing. So if she wanted to go any place, it was to sneak, and I was the perfect person for her to ask to sneak out with. I can recall one time her dad allowing her to go to a football game out in the county, and so I picked her up and I assured him I'd get her right back home, but, well, of course that didn't happen. I had to take someone else home who lived further out in the county, and we're talking about 10 miles away, and driving home, and Luann just being so upset that her dad was going to be upset with her, and I said, I can't take you home first because this person, lives further out, so I've got to drive her home first, and then I'll get you home. And sure as shit, all my lights went out.
Another excellent story. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Hey, folks, speaking of stories, if you love the paranormal as much as Tim and I think you do, go to darknessradio.com. Click on our store button or shop button. I can't remember which one it is, Tim, but it's one of those. We'll let you know that you got to buy stuff. But you don't have to buy stuff, but you should buy stuff because there's cool stuff that we have in our shop. Click on it. It'll take you in. Click on our Amazon page, and there you're going to see subsections. We've got some really cool paranormal merchandise and giftware. And ladies, we've got some really cool paranormal clothing lines and such to show. Gentlemen, some great T-shirts and more gift items there. We have paranormal books that you see featured on our program. There's also links to our true crime guests books that are in the true crime section. So please go in and do that. Here's why. Because when you go in and you make a purchase, a very small percentage, nothing gets added to you. If it says $9.99, that's what you pay for. That's the normal price. But a small percentage goes to the show. So that would help us considerably. It doesn't take money out of the pockets of the seller or out of the buyer. It's just a granted little kind of affiliation program we have with Amazon. So please go check out our store. And I'm constantly updating it, taking out the old merch, putting in new merch, and we've got some really cool stuff in there. As a matter of fact, I just got Winnie this really beautiful dress. She loves it. It's really cool. And the neckline kind of creates a pentagram. And then she got these stockings. I don't know, is that what they call them now? Stockings? That feels like I'm talking in the 1940s, Tim. She got these spiffy new stockings, see, that have got stars and moons on them, crosses and pentagrams and stuff. There's some really cool different designs, and we've got all those links up in that page. There's also cool coffee mugs and games and geez, I mean, just go check it out. There's a myriad of different product. Go in, get something cool. You deserve it, people. We love you and you deserve it. And again, how do you do that? Go to darknessradio.com. If you have our app, you can simply access it through the app through our shop. So just go check that out as well. All right, Tim, where are we off to next?
We're going to Jamaica, man.
Oh, yeah, past the Dutchie on the left-hand side.
I'm going to try to slaughter my Jamaican accent here. If you're ready. Yeah. We now go really get no ting. That's what the quote is. Yep. Manchester residents worry about changes that the South Coast Highway leg will bring in this story. And they could be spooky ones. I'll warn you ahead of time. Changes coming for some residents of Redbury District in Manchester, but majority are not welcoming it. With the impending construction of the Manchester leg of the South Coast Highway, some persons were notified that their homes and farms will be moved, for which they would be compensated. Like most of the residents, Lloyd James, a farmer, said he is concerned about the health hazard. He says, my house is about 100 meters, unless you want the accent. I could do it if you'd like.
It's up to you.
Nah, I'll just read it straight.
Okay. All right.
He says, my house is about 100 meters from where they will be working, and there's going to be a lot of dust. So I want to know who's going to clean my house after and who's going to pay for all the medical problems that the dust is going to cause. When I'm watching the television, especially the news, I don't even talk to anybody, and now the noise is going to disturb me. I like my space, and that is why I built my house where it is, he said. He said that unlike posh communities of Jamaica, they do not get water in their pipes, We have to store water, so when they exhume those graves, that dust is going to go into our water that is stored, and when we consume it, we know what is going to happen. A lot of those graves are decades old, so persons may have died from deadly diseases like cholera, and they don't care about the people, he said. Okay, that right there is a little disturbing. Not going to lie.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah. James also was concerned about having a few uninvited guests from the paranormal world as well. Okay, I got to do this one in the accent because he says duppies. And if I say it in my accent, it sounds stupid. He goes, far as I know, those duppies, especially the children, are going to run right into my house to play, and I can't have that. You should not interfere with the dead. This is a serious thing, he said.
Yeah, that sounds much less stupid, Tim. That was a good choice.
I'm just saying. Well, okay, let me read it in my accent.
No, please.
As far as I know, those duppies, especially the children, are going to run right into my house to play, and I can't have that. You should
Is that
not
the voice you think that you're portraying on the show? That's the voice?
You should not interfere with the dead. This is a serious ting.
Ting.
Yep. That's how it's written.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like James, another farmer who gave her name as Rose stated that she will be losing her source of income in the process. We were told that we should stop farming in June, and if we go ahead and plant, we will not be compensated for it. Me have to be taking up me tings and go plant them elsewhere. See, it doesn't sound right if I read it.
I can't believe that they write it this way.
They do. Yeah.
I'm looking at the article with you. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, it's
me tings. Yeah, I guess they're just doing direct quotes, so they've got to kind of. But yeah,
they evaluate the land really cheap, so we not go really get nothing. See, it doesn't sound right when I say it. The authorities said we have to come off the land by April, so it not make any sense plant anything. And it not like we get paid for the things as yet, she said. Other residents noted that they recently attended a meeting with a few of the stakeholders in another community, but their concerns were not addressed properly. They used a lot of big words like they wanted us to walk with a dictionary. They even went as far as saying that they have something that they can cover the dust, but how can you cover dust? It was as if this case, why it wasn't done in other communities, a woman said. Development is good, but when persons are going to lose their homes that were built by past generations, it feels like you were losing a big part of your history. Soon we're going to have to pay to drive on the same spot that we used to walk free. Dust to go kill we off, and we lose we farms, and that'd give us money.
And they're more worried, though, really about kind of disrupting the spirits and pissing them off.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame them, one, for the ecological damage you're going to do to the water supply, one. But two, yeah, I can imagine the paranormal potential of mixing up a few spirits. I get it. I mean, you have to consider too, in the Rastafarian, you've got Rastafarian beliefs. You also have other religious beliefs. Jamaica's not just an island of one religion. So you've got different religious beliefs as well. So it's you're dealing with a lot of different things there.
Yeah. All right. Where are we up to next?
On the other side of ghosts, Dave, there's some recent scientific research that says ghosts are not real. So there you go. Ta-da! Thank you, everybody. Good night.
All right. Thanks, folks. Yep, we can go away now.
This story says, ever since humans registered the first records, they have all claimed and depicted being visited by ghosts, spirits, and even demons. As it happens, most people would say that the supernatural encounters took place around midnight. But researchers believe they have discovered a more logical explanation for those paranormal experiences and hypothesize that these events have actually nothing to do with ghosts, but with one's sleep patterns. Oh, this'll be good. Let's hear this. Professor of psychology at Goldsmiths University, Alice Gregory, stated that there are a few ways in which sleep disruption can be confounded with ghosts. One of the ways is via sleep paralysis, which occurs when you attain the deep sleep state or REM state, where you get paralyzed as not to enact your dreams. Approximately 8% of people maintain some kind of consciousness when they are in a REM state, so it appears as their dreams are forwarded into real life, it could be distorted as seeing people and things that are not actually real. Another probable explanation is something known as exploding head syndrome, where a high band is heard just when drifting off, but there is no answer for it, actually. Professor Gregory says when we fall asleep, the reticular formation of the brainstem, a part of our brain involved in consciousness, typically starts to inhibit our ability to move, see, and hear things. When we experience a bang in our sleep, this might be because of a delay in this process. Instead of the reticular formation shutting down the auditory neurons, they might fire at once. Researching, and this is a quote here, researching my book, I spoke to Mrs. Sinclair, who is 70 and lives alone. She told me about what she had thought was a ghost living in her house, an imp throttling her during the night, and other things that had left her petrified. Having scientific explanations provided her with immense comfort, and she no longer believes in paranormal explanations for the things that she experienced. The researcher continued, we hope that scientific explanations of paranormal experiences might help others by lowering anxiety. Decreasing anxiety has also been hypothesized as a potential method by which to reduce sleep paralysis, Professor Gregory then added. I don't know. What do you think, Dave?
Everybody's got a perspective, and I prefer that science is trying to take a rational look, which is what they do, at what these experiences might be, to try to de-escalate those that might be predisposed to jumping to conclusions and always afraid and jumping at every shadow. I think dismissing all paranormal activity when it's been had by so many people around the world, yeah, I think that's the wrong tact, and at least there are some scientists and facilities that are examining this. Listen, we know that there's look into the afterlife that continues from major universities. Although you'll have the skeptics tell you nobody reputable is doing it, we know different because we've spoken to people from those universities, right? Mm-hmm. We've read the articles here. We've talked about it. So I believe, hey, listen, if we can get answers for some of this stuff, like sleep paralysis, I think is something that a lot of people should be aware of and be careful of. And if you're having a lot of sleep paralysis happen, definitely see a doctor because it's probably more of a neurological thing. Mm-hmm. But, examining the science of that is one thing. Summarily dismissing everybody's examples is something completely different. And when you've got a neurosurgeon, a very highly acclaimed neurosurgeon, Dr. Eben Alexander, telling you that he was a non-believer until he had his experience and it changed him, he will tell you it's not just synapses and the way the brain works. It was truly a spiritual awakening.
I think there's such a thing as being not just skeptical, but cynical. And I think Dr. Gregory in this case was a little too cynical. I think leaning a little bit too much on science and not enough of investigating, leaning a little too hard on science and not enough on investigating the paranormal in that case. So,
all right, where are we off to next, sir?
Well, an interesting story here is an Indian man dies as a black shadow sweeps through the air. His brother suspects paranormal activity. We go to New Delhi, where several people, along with the brother of the deceased, suspected paranormal activity in an unusual incident in which a resident of the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh died after a mysterious black shadow appeared in the air. CCTV footage from Meerut, a city in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, has captured an unusual sight and the final moments of a man dying under what is widely seen as mysterious circumstances. In the clip, Mohammed Urshad collapsed on the floor after what looked like a black cloud swept through the air moments before he died. The brother of Urshad, Noor Mohammed, said the deceased was healthy and had left home after having lunch. The quote is, "After reaching there, he saw an unnatural thing and died after seeing it," he said, citing the shadow as the reason for his brother's death. In another incident, a viral video of a ladder moving on its own in a parking lot in India's Greater Noida has spooked residents who have stopped using the basement as they suspect it is haunted by paranormal activity. So there you go. Kind of weird. Sees a shadow and then dies.
Yeah. It's the Shadow Reaper, dude.
Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, I talked with Mike Ricksecker on the show, and we were talking about shadows and whether shadow people could be potentially dangerous. And he had brought up a couple of examples of, not just the Hat Man, but other shadows definitely being potentially dangerous. So it's it's interesting that this story comes up now. Very cool.
Well, yeah, I guess, maybe Blue Oyster Cult had it wrong all along. We should fear the Reaper.
I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah, Shadow Reaper. Man, that would be creepy. You see a shadow come in and then the guy dies. Yeah.
Especially if you're the brother. What do you begin to speculate? Is that do you think that that's the Grim Reaper? Do you think it's the spirit of a former relative come to claim your brother? Or do you think that that's some sort of familial curse and maybe you're next?
I hope not. I hope not. That would be weird. What a weird black cloud you would have over your head going forward.
Right. Huh. Yeah.
All right. I know we're coming to the end of them. What have we got next, sir?
We are coming to the end of them here. In fact, I believe this is my last story. The story I have in front of me here is about a mystery skeleton that washed up on the beach during Storm Sierra, and they believe it's the Loch Ness Monster. It is a weird skeleton, I'll tell you that. When you look at
I agree. And if you've ever questioned the validity of the Loch Ness Monster, this to me was one of the best stories.
Yeah, it's you look at the skeleton and it gives you chills. A gigantic skeleton was washed up on an Aberdeenshire beach during a storm and has prompted online speculation over what it could be, including the suggestion that it might be Nessie. A photograph of the carcass was posted on social media in the wake of Storm Sierra, which brought strong wind gusts to the whole of the UK. Hundreds of people have joined in the debate about what the mystery object might be via the community group Fubar News. Suggestions included the skeleton of a whale. Well, I don't think a whale has. It looks like protruding horns on the top. Suggestions included the skeleton of a whale, while other ideas included a saltwater crocodile and the vertebrae of a brontosaurus or is it Diplodocus? I'm not quite sure. Other contributors, listen to me. Other contributors.
Them they're contributors.
Joining in the fun reckoned, that's more my speed, that it was a rarely seen deep sea haggis or a Chinese New Year dragon. Why not? Various people suggested that it was Nessie. Brian Ingram said, Nessie escaped to the sea, but then came to a sticky end. Emma Louise Boland had a similar view. Nessie could not adapt to saltwater, she said. The picture was posted on Fubar News, and Fubar News actually does have a Facebook page as well. If you just search Fubar News on Facebook, you'll see the picture of a spectacled man standing on top of the skeletal remains, like he conquered the thing himself. It's an interesting picture, to say the least, Dave.
Yeah. What do you make of that? I mean, seriously. I mean, what do you make of it? To have it wash up there of all places. The thing that literally sticks out to me are the two things that are jutting out in the front of it that look like horns. You see those, and they're huge. I mean, it's not like they're little tiny horns. These things are like 3 feet in length at the. Yeah. No, I don't know. Does this turn out to be like part of the whatever holds the skull together? Is it kind of like a clavicle for whatever this creature is in the neck? I know the clavicle is part of our.
It may be
lower bottom, but I don't know.
Yeah, it might be a support for the neck too. Where it is a huge vertebrate, and it snaps back, that tail snaps back and it curves as you're looking at the picture, and it's being taken from behind. It's not like this thing has a front view where you can actually see what's doing in the front.
It's a lot like you. You like to take it from behind too, don't you? Photographs. I mean, it gives you that better perspective.
Oh, photographs. Yes, I do. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying. Yeah. I like a shot from behind every once in a while. Photographs, that is. But yeah, there's nothing, and it looks like almost like it's missing its head.
Good grief.
Yeah.
Huh.
But, just from what you're looking at there, it's hard to tell what exactly this thing is. But it's intriguing.
Cool. Yeah,
nonetheless,
it is definitely intriguing.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up. I've got a story here to share from a listener. Are you ready?
Ready.
Dave and Tim, I just wanted to share my story. It's a bit long, and I apologize. Are you ready, Tim?
Ready.
I'm going to go into narration mode. I've always been sensitive, though I had never had any supernatural experiences per se. I just thought I wasn't the type. My third eye seems firmly closed, obviously. I mean, I lived in London, England for a year and never saw or experienced anything. Then, several years ago, my husband took a job in a town several hours north of the town I was raised in. The first year there, my sister-in-law asked us to go with her to a historical preservation site, which is an old fort from the settler days. That was around 1885 here. Canada is very young. When we got there, we discovered that it also is an old residential school site. The residential schools are a shameful part of Canada's past in which government-sanctioned schools tore Native Americans from their families in the name of reconditioning them and beating their nativeness out of them. Many, many children died. Estimates range as high as 6,000. These kids were brutalized, beaten, beheaded. And the site we were at is particularly notorious for its brutal history. My daughters were 4 and 3 at the time. We were at the fort at the bottom of a hill. Up the hill was a line of trees, all tied with brightly colored ribbons, with an alleyway cleared in between. We all wondered out loud what those ribbons were for, and then decided to take a trip up the brightly colored pathway. But as we began, my 3-year-old, who had been behaving decently until then, began screaming and screaming, and she wouldn't stop. No matter what we did, we could not get her to stop screaming and go up that alleyway. So my sister-in-law and my older daughter went up the hill, and I stayed behind with my screaming younger daughter to calm her down. She wasn't having any of it. She would not stop screaming or calm down. I was getting really annoyed when my sister-in-law and my older daughter finally came back down the hill, and we left the hill and went elsewhere. And my younger daughter stopped screaming and seemed fine for the rest of the trip. I remember remarking on how weird my daughter's behavior was, but didn't think any more about it. What I learned later was that the local natives had several releasing ceremonies at the site to release the souls of the murdered children trapped there. Each of the ribbons represented the soul of a child that had been freed. The natives were on record saying that during the final ceremony, they believed they had released all the children's souls. Well, they were wrong. The weird stuff began the next day. We came home and opened the front door, and it hit me that something was wrong with the house. It felt bad, wrong. The entire atmosphere of the place had changed. It hadn't been that way when we left. Well, I shook the strangeness off and just ignored it, but that night my daughters woke up screaming several times. First, they told their father that someone had come into their bedroom that wasn't him. The second time, they told him that they had seen a ghost. They were 4 and 3. We were very careful about what they watched and heard. How did they know what a ghost was? That same night, while all this was going on, I had no idea until the next morning. I woke up and looked into the closet, which had no door. In my half-awake state, I saw a figure standing in my closet. The figure had no head and was transparent like it was made of Ziploc bags. I wasn't afraid. I don't know that I really knew what I was seeing, but eventually I rolled over and just went back to sleep. When I woke up and heard about the girl's night, I was definitely shaken. I realized what must have happened. My 3-year-old daughter, who had been described by a later neighbor as having an energy like a live wire, seems to have carried something, perhaps someone home with her, something that had been attracted to her incredible energy. And I was now living in a haunted house. I was not going to have that. That morning, I sat down and talked to the energy. I told it that we're not its family and it needed to leave. I felt really strange talking to the air, but after that conversation, the energy in the house lightened considerably. Whatever it was that had been there just moved on. Though the house was never really the same again, it always felt tainted afterwards. Our lives were never the same either. My girls still won't sleep in the dark 5 years later, and I still struggle with being able to watch ghost shows, which I used to love before this incident. That incident also kicked off a rash of very strange events. My husband and I started looking for a house a few months later. In one house, I walked into the basement and suddenly felt so sick that I had to rush outside before I vomited everywhere. We didn't buy that house. In another, we had several experiences. In the upper floor, I suddenly developed an earache out of nowhere, at the same time that my husband had the same feeling that he had as a child when his neighbor died and the man's ghost went through him. We were on the main floor when the outside door to the basement suddenly swung open in front of us. The real estate agent was visibly shocked. She went to the top of the stairs and yelled, "Who's there?" There was no answer. "That's strange," she muttered. I could have swore I locked that door. Well, we didn't buy that house either. The same thing happened in the third house. A door that had recently been closed swung open in front of us. The owner of the house quickly closed it, and we could see that she was hoping we hadn't noticed. We had, and we didn't buy that house either. We finally managed to find a house that wasn't haunted, thank goodness. And now that we've moved back down this blessedly, I haven't had any more experiences, at least that we know of. I have to admit, I am enjoying the peace and quiet. We were discussing this with my mother several years ago, and she said something that shocked me. She's a staunch Christian, and I thought she didn't believe in ghosts. That's what she had always told me. But she lied. When I was a baby, we lived in a very old farmhouse on the prairies. I was a terrible baby, constantly sick with earaches. One day, my mother went upstairs and saw the imprint of a figure lying on their bed, even though no one was home and hadn't been there for a long time. She always believed in ghosts after that. She just told me that they didn't exist as a child to make me feel better. Apparently, I've also been sensitive since I was born. I guess that makes sense considering that I nearly died before birth. Somehow, people like me just seem weird, I guess. My brother is also a C-section baby. He, too, is very sensitive. One night while sleeping in the house my grandfather died in, my brother woke up and looked up to see my deceased grandfather smiling down at him. "Hi," my grandfather said, and then disappeared. Anyone who tells you that ghosts don't exist is lying. There is something out there. I love your podcast. You always make me laugh, even though Canadians don't say a boot. Yes, they do. We've cleared this up.
Yes, we have.
And I love hearing the validation of other people's experiences. Thank you for listening to me. Also, I suffer from depression and anxiety too. You're not alone. And that comes from our friend Amanda. Amanda, thank you for listening and sharing your story. It's been a pleasure. And thank you all for tuning in. Tomorrow, Steve Shippey joins us, A Haunting in the Heartland, our topic, as we delve into some of the strange and unusual experiences from Steve's life and hear what we can expect on the new Travel Channel series. Go set your DVRs right now, February 21st, for the new series, A Haunting in the Heartland. For Tim Dennis, I'm Dave Schrader. You've been listening to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio.